All right. Well, good morning, everyone. I show 8:01. So it is the third Tuesday of the month, and this is the Mayor's Virtual Coffee. And today our topic is our public library. There's lots of things going on in the public library, and we want to make sure we're also sharing all of the resources in our public library. That's probably the number one thing I hear when we do presentations about the library to the public is, I had no idea you offer all of these things at the library. So how do we share this information? How do we let others know everything that they can experience at the library? So that is today's conversation. I'd like to welcome Hattie Dudley, who is our public library director. And if you are online with us listening in, if you have a question throughout this presentation, feel free to raise your hand. We'll try to answer it. We'll also do Q&A at the end of this presentation as well. So welcome, everybody. And Hattie, let's get started. The library has celebrated a few milestones in the last year. Can you kind of share some highlights of that to get us started with today's conversation?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Good morning. Good morning to those who are online. Last year was a pretty good year. We always track statistics, numbers, quantifiable data, but we also track qualitative data. But three key milestones we hit last year were checkouts or circulations. That is checkout of physical materials and digital downloads. And we had over 763,427 circulations last year. That's the most we've ever had in a given year. Big number. I think things will just continue to increase. We also had over 603,000 database hits. And I'll talk a little bit about our resources and student cards, but people are using both physical materials and our resources online. And then finally, our other milestone we had was recording over 61,000 holds or requests. When people put an item on reservation, we pull it for them and have it set aside. That's the most we've ever done. That's been a pretty continuous uptick since COVID. But with the introduction of new locker services we have here at the library, it makes sense that we would do even more reservations for books and materials. So those are kind of our high level numbers. We also had a couple of milestones with offering new services like the lockers. Those have been really popular. If you haven't used them, they're really pretty slick, very high tech. It's one of those things that you put a book on hold, you ask to pick it up, you go to put your number in and ding, the door opens, and it's almost like magic. We also, high level last year, had Thinking Money for Kids traveling exhibit. We were one of 50 libraries in the United States to host that exhibit. And then also the lunch distribution program. I always like to tell people about that because some people don't realize we partner with the schools, Bentonville schools and Aramark for that. And they distributed over 7,000 free lunches to children last summer here on the veranda. So those are kind of our takeaways. We also began offering credit card services for patrons to pay fines and fees. It was a really good year, and then also you'll hear a little bit later, we're building a bigger library. So we did a lot of work during the year on that as well.
So just to recap a little bit for those online with us, we do track our numbers and the usage at all of our facilities. And so that's one thing that I think the library is definitely able to show to the public is how much our library is loved and used. And then also just the conversations around everything new at the library. So the lockers, I know we met with our community council last week, and one of the individuals just was talking about, because they work during the day, how appreciative they were, because a lot of times they would put something on hold, but they couldn't get to the library during sort of our normal library hours, but they were able to pick it up at that point with the lockers, into the evening. And so just a number of things every, I think, year your team is trying to improve the service at the library. And we're going to talk a lot about those improvements that are coming. And again, just about the usage and the resources, and just we want all of our community to be engaged with our public library and share with all of those resources. So the next question that I'm going to go into is, in addition to all of those accomplishments that you just mentioned, what services and resources does the library offer for everyone? And I do realize, like, you could probably spend 8 hours on this topic, so we're going to have to go sort of high level here to get through it. But this is one of the things that I do think we want to do more and more in the public, is make sure the public is aware of all of the resources. So I would say to anybody online, if you have a organization that you're a part of and they would like to learn more about the library, please contact us and we can do a more in-depth presentation. Obviously, when you come into the library and you get a library card, we're going to also try to explain a lot of these resources to you. But I can't remember a presentation on the library where we didn't give information to whoever was listening to that presentation, and they're like, wow, I had no idea that you could get this resource at the public library. So with that said, let's do an abbreviated version of all the resources at the library.
That's great. Well, one thing we're about to offer for the community is a little library in the park. And that's kind of a piggyback from last year, an accomplishment. That was a mayor of Bentonville's Bright Idea Award winner. Our library team came up with the idea to install a small library in a city park. And we plan to unveil that March 6th at Lake Bentonville Park. And you can kind of see the prototype or the concept there, designed by Randy Townsend, a local artisan. So that's just something, another little outreach part of our service we're going to test, and look forward to that. That'll be a great small resource, a little resource. But other things we offer at the public library are just, like I say, something for everyone. It can be materials to check out. We have what we call a library of things. So we have lots of learning kits. We have telescopes, we have fishing poles, we have knitting learning kits. I mean, you name it. If you want to learn about it, chances are we've got it at the public library. We also have some great book club kits that people can check out and host their own book club with friends and family. Just a lovely kind of complement to the collection. When we talk about the resources the mayor's mentioning, the digital resources, and I think this is what she's kind of alluding to, where teens can do ACT prep learning and practice tests online, or an adult individual can get LinkedIn Learning and do some career development. Just some really cool, very quality resources that we purchase for our community. A lot of those are listed on our website under e-learning. There's so many, it's such a long list. You almost have to know what you're looking for, but we can always help you with that. And then we also have a student portal.
Let's talk a little bit. Let's go into a little more depth in some of these things. So let's talk about the book club kits. So those book club kits are, if you are a part of any book club, and they offers, or is there at least maybe 10 books in the kit, and then it comes with questions, it comes with recipes, it comes with just anything you would possibly need to make your book club interactive. So if you're not aware of that and you are a part of a book club, or if I tell people all the time, if they're new to the area and they're really wanting to get to know people or get to know people in their neighborhood, a book club is a great way to do that. And your local library has those kits for you available. So if you want to put it on, it's not a lot of pressure to you to come up with all of the questions and information. You can do that through your public library. On the library of things, you mentioned a couple of things that I always like to tell people. So the fishing poles. So if you are interested in going to Lake Bentonville, one of our public parks that is fully stocked by game and fish, and you need to just try it out, you can come to the library and take out a fishing pole or check out a fishing pole. You also, and I don't know that you mentioned this, but you normally do mention this, is that we have telescopes, and we do have the eclipse coming. And there's a lot of information about that, and Arkansas is kind of in that area. So you can come in and check out a telescope as well. So I don't know, there's a whole list of items that you can check out with your library card here at the Bentonville Library. And I would encourage everyone out there just to come in and browse what things you have at the library. Good. And then the next topic that you talked about was just the resources. So we're very proactive with economic development here in the city of Bentonville, and meeting with businesses and trying to understand resources and different things. And one of the things I tell them is, have you checked out our public library and some of the resources for businesses that you have in the public library, from Libby to the LinkedIn Learning to Rosetta Stone, amazing amount of resources for businesses. And I think that's one thing that we also heard last week when we were talking to our community councils. They had no ideas as business owners or just individual employees, the type of resources that you can find at your public library. And then I'm not sure if you got into sort of the resources for kids, but yes, as a parent, I have a 16-year-old, so I am looking at all the resources on the testing in for ACT, SAT, all those things that you have to think about, and maybe talk a little bit about, I know you have a couple of upcoming programs specific to that, and if we have any parents online, I think this would be good information.
Yeah, some of our more popular teen programs really do revolve around learning and education. Some of them are teen-led, like the Math Mentors. But what we also have been partnering with the Bentonville Public Police Department to offer safe driving courses for teens, and parents come with them to that program as well. We pack the house on that program, as well as ACT mock testing. And when we met with the youth council last week, they had some good ideas about some more teen programs we might be able to consider offering. A little bit of financial literacy for young adults, kind of those life skills things that maybe they do learn a little bit in school, maybe they do learn a little bit at home, but just kind of reinforcing those kinds of things. So we have a really solid program audience throughout the library. Of course, we've got the story times and the younger kids and families, and then the teens, and now we're offering even more things for adults. So people come here for that experience as well as just resources.
So lots of programming. You mentioned the partnership with our police department on the safe driving and they program, and they do give teens that go through that a certificate that they can take back to their insurance companies. There's a lot of different benefits, I think, to those things. And you talked a little bit about your ACT, SAT prep. I think you have a course which it may be filled up for this coming Saturday, but I'm going to guess you're going to offer it again. So definitely make sure you follow the library. The easiest way, I think, for announcements to get out there right now are through social media. So if you follow the Friends of the Bentonville Library, I know you guys put it, and then we also reshare it onto the city Facebook page and different options. So that you have continuous programming going on that I would encourage everyone to go find out about, because it's definitely, I didn't know all of the resources that the library offers, and we are definitely, my family is definitely taking advantage of it. And I certainly want all of the public to be able to do that. So, and any other things we want to talk about on resources? I know.
Well, we do have the Mayor's Book Club coming up. We can mention that. But I think, resources, I would just encourage folks to log into bentonvillelibrary.org, peruse the website, downloadables, e-learning, student portal. If you have an idea that think you something you might want to learn about, give us a call. Chances are we could connect you with the right resource for those things. We also benefit from the state library's traveler database. They provide a lot of resources as well. Newsbank is one I've been using quite a bit lately to research newspaper articles. We do have access to the local newspapers, and I've used that a couple times lately, and it's been really good to work with. So.
And they can also call you, and you can help them if they're trying to research a specific topic. The staff will also help sort of gather those resources for them and put them together in a bundle for them, as well, is my understanding. So. Yeah. Again, lots of resources at the library. Yeah. And you mentioned, yes, we do book clubs. We do have a Mayor's Book Club coming up. And so I certainly want to invite the public to be a part of this. We're going to be in person for this one. We've been doing them virtually. So we're going to try in person. I usually try to pick some type of motivational books that we can all kind of come to the table with and talk about and then have a good conversation about. So this is the book our first book that we're going to do, The Power of Positive Leadership by John Gordon. He's kind of the author that I'm kind of focusing on this year as well. He has several books out that I think have a lot of good information and and content on just concepts that are fun to share in a book club atmosphere. So I would invite anyone out there that wants to be a part of this to come in and be part of the Mayor's Book Club. And you can explain a little bit about how the the club works and how the book portion of that works.
Yeah, so this year, our Friends of the Bentonville Library is sponsoring the books that we purchase that we distribute to people as they register for the book club. In the previous year, our first year or two, the foundation, our library foundation, sponsored those. They've got other things they're funding for us this year, so it's kind of a community sharing of this program. But we purchased several copies. We have them available for free to pick up when you register. We launched them about a month before the club, so it looks like we're meeting April 24th. That kicks off National Library Week. We will be in person, as the mayor says, in the sunroom. With this book, we just ask that people who pick up a book that you come and attend the workshop. And we're asking if people do not attend the workshop, that they return the book to the library so we can pass it along or use it for a different collection. So that's how we do the books. And then we will have a summer session and a fall session. Same method. We'll have the books available about a month before. And we normally announce that on social media and our e-newsletter. So I'm looking forward to that one.
All right. Let's talk a little bit about the city of Bentonville's 150th birthday. And we're doing a lot of celebrating in the city of Bentonville. Each department in the city has kind of taken on different aspects of that and how they want to celebrate it within their department. So what is the library doing to help us celebrate 150 years in the city of Bentonville?
We're doing a lot. We're excited about this. And some of it's really easy just to incorporate community in Bentonville and just these celebratory themes and activities we're already hosting. But a couple of things we're doing special is we just debuted a Remembering Bentonville kit, and we kind of curated the content with that with our partners at the Bentonville History Museum. But it's basically kind of learning about the history of Bentonville. And what's kind of cool in there is it has little flashcards. So you can kind of see like what a building was then and what it is now. And I always use the tacos and tamales reference because they got good food. But also it used to be a bank that was famously robbed. And I don't know if the city's planning a reenactment or anything like that. That might be kind of cool. But just some different things to celebrate our cultural heritage, the Apple industry and back in the day and that kind of thing. So that kit is getting ready to be debuted now. We are also hosting what we call a tiny art contest. And when I say tiny art, I mean literally the canvases are teeny tiny. Patrons can register to pick up their tiny art canvas, celebrate Bentonville in something colorful, and then we will display them in April. We're doing that for teens, children, and adults. So it'll be a nice little display of tiny art. And then finally, right now, we're in the middle of a library card design contest. So if you know any budding artists, please share this information with them. It's on our website. I think the deadline to submit is March 6th, but we're asking for colorful designs that celebrate Bentonville. And we'll unveil that library card, special commemorative library card, in the summertime. We'll also be doing lots of stuff with the city. I know there's a First Friday planned. And some other activities. So we'll definitely be there with the city of Bentonville. I don't know if you want to mention that First Friday.
Absolutely. So just to give a little more information, this is just what the library is doing for the 150th. So we have activities planned in all of our departments, and actually with a lot of community partners in the city. We're encouraging any business, anybody that's part of the city of Bentonville, if they want to help us celebrate the 150th in any way, we would love to be able to do that with them and in conjunction with them. So we do have a website, bentonville150.com, that starts to list a lot of the pre-planned sort of larger community events. It also celebrates the history. There's a timeline on there. We are each month kind of trying to highlight a different department. And in February, we've been highlighting the library and sort of some of the history with the library. I think we've had some trivia questions online, if you know where the library used to be located. And we're going to talk a little bit about the expansion at the new with our current library, but there's a lot of history of how we got to where the site the current library is on. So we encourage everybody to learn more about all of our city departments and also just the fun entrepreneurial history of the city of Bentonville. There's been a lot of amazing people that have come before us to set the timeline for us to be able to have things or be able to do things like the library expansion. So definitely want to give a shout out to that. And again, if you're listening, help us share this information out, help us get the community engaged in whatever aspect of celebrating 150 years of the city of Bentonville that they want to be involved with.
I like that that timeline. I actually haven't explored the website as much as I should. There's really good information on there. We'll definitely link to it and share that out. That's great.
A lot of fun facts. And I just think that the better that the community can connect with your city and the history of your city, and sort of helps you better understand where we've been and where we're going, and just be more connected. So we're hoping that that's the piece of the pie that the community can come together with us on. Some of the events that were larger events that are coming on April 6th, we're going to have a State of the City and our volunteer appreciation night, and we're going to be doing some special recognitions that maybe we haven't done in the past. We're also going to do some storytelling of relating sort of the history of the city of Bentonville. And there's just some fun stories I think that you're going to hear in that. A couple of other things. There is a time capsule being built by Dave and Jenny Mars from Fixer to Fabulous are helping us with that. So a lot of fun things. We have our Bentonville Together celebration. We do have a First Friday coming up in April that's going to have a whole section dedicated to the 150th. And again, I think they're scrolling through some of the activities that have been planned that are on the website. So if you are out there listening and you want to be engaged with Bentonville's 150th, there is definitely a way for you to do that. One other thing I'll mention is you've seen, hopefully if you've driven by City Hall or on Main Street or even by the library, you've started to see sort of the banners that have went up celebrating the 150th. And so we hope that that's another signal to the public that we're celebrating all year long and we want them to celebrate with us.
Mm-hmm. Great.
Okay, so next we're going to talk a little bit about the library expansion. This has been a big topic, and I know something that's taken a lot of Hattie's time, and Hattie's been with us a long time as library director, and I know she's really excited about this sort of new, future for the library. So I'm going to let you share.
Oh, good. It's hard to know where to even start and how much time do I have? No, I'm just kidding. I think the last time we had the mayor's coffee, we were talking about our generic plans for the expansion. We had some conceptual designs. We had some ideas about what we needed as far as the amenities, because our community told us. So we've really done a good job of sticking with what the community said they need in an expansion. We definitely are growing. We've got new spaces that we will be planning, but also that we will be planning. We're actually building them. We're done with the planning at this point. We've got new spaces we will be building, as well as renovated and improved spaces throughout the library. So you can kind of just see that this bullet point list. Youth services, children and young families moving to our community has just been a huge growth area for our library. We know that people come here to live and have quality education in the schools, but they also use our public library. So the children's department, the teen services area, that will be a huge focus for the expansion. The other big part of the expansion is a larger Walmart community room that we'll be building. So we really have seen the need for people to come here to meet and collaborate in either formal settings or also informal settings. We're also planning a makerspace, and we talked about this a little bit last week with a couple of groups. One thing about our makerspace that I really appreciate is that it's going to be very versatile and flexible, because we asked the community, what do you want to do? Some people said, I want to do robotics, I want to tinker, I want to code. Others said, I want to do art and crafts and make things. Others said they want to go back to the traditional crafts like knitting and sewing. So we know that our space needs to be able to be versatile enough to accommodate all those things for all those audiences. It will not be just like one age group. It'll be all ages. Hopefully some space for intergenerational activities as well. And I know, Mayor, you and I talked a little bit about that makerspace and the windows and how you can see the activity happening in there from both inside and outside. And we think that'll be a great kind of living billboard for the library. Our friends are getting a larger bookstore, and then we have a community hub and business center planned. as well as some outdoor spaces. We heard from the community that nature, sunlight, outdoor is very important, both the connection from inside, but also having some little pocket areas for people to relax with a book, or just be outside with their family or friends and enjoy this space together. And I think we've got a couple of conceptual renderings that we can kind of show. We've been working with MSR Design, a Minneapolis firm, and Hot Jackson's our local team, as well as Flint Co's our pre-construction management team. And I'll tell you, they've just all three been great to work with, along with their other trade partners and consultants. Everybody's focused on building a big, nice library that's quality, that's welcoming, that's something for our community, but also within alignment of our budget. And Mayor, you and I talked a lot about budget. It's been a challenge.
It has been a challenge, but I also want to say kudos to that team as well, because from the beginning, this has really been a community project. And if you're listening in the public, I want you to know how hard this team has worked to be able to go to the public with a bond extension to be able to fund a portion of this, but also our friends and the foundation with the library going to the private sector and saying, we want to make this expansion the best it can possibly be. So if you look at the funding for this, it's definitely funded more by our private funders and the community. We have donations, everything from $5 up, I think, in this community project. But what I also want the public to hear is the amount of community input that was taken into this. So when you hear the spaces, know that those are the spaces that we heard from the public that they would come in and use and utilize. And that's how the design team worked. We are also, yes, very conscious of budget. And so that team has done a great job to kind of put all those resources together. And I will say, you do have the distinction in the city of Bentonville on the bid process of definitely going above and beyond and getting bids for the project. And if you are familiar with how the city operates projects, we have to do a bid process. Right now, we've in some instances only had one bidder on projects, which makes it very difficult to be competitive. And I'll let you talk a little bit about the bid process for the library and what interest we had. And I definitely think that's kudos to your team.
I think so too. I think having Flint Co on board and just their expertise in the industry has been phenomenal throughout the whole process. We are adding 22,000 plus square feet. Our budget is 16.75 million. That is a lot of money. But with the current construction climate, it's actually been a challenge to stretch those dollars as far as we could. Flint Co did a great job bringing bidders to the table. Many of our trades had 2 or more bids on the process, and the bid day we had at their office was just all smiles and high fives. It was just a great turnout, and the more bids we have, the more competitive the pricing is. And not only did we bring multiple bidders, or they brought multiple bidders, they also brought quality bidders. So I mean, I'm just really pleased with them, pleased with MSR and Hot Jackson. Just good work for the city of Bentonville. Now you're seeing a couple of renderings as well. You can kind of see that extension, the addition on Main Street view. I can hardly wait for us to open this building. We've got a groundbreaking to plan first and some more work to do first, but it's just been a great process. And again, during COVID, we really saw the value of our veranda. So this extension of the veranda is really important. I think that a lot of people will use it and some other outdoor spaces to meet, relax, visit, enjoy a lunch or a coffee, that kind of thing. So, and go ahead.
I'm glad to hear you call it a great process, because I know that we've had several conversations, Hattie, and just a learning process. And how do we accomplish this when definitely in the climate that we're seeing with inflation and different things, and how do we make this happen? And again, kudos to your team for really working through the process and getting the best that we can possibly do. But there was, I also want the public to know there was a lot of value engineering that went into this, right? And so maybe tell them again, I want the public to understand how much work has went into this to be able to produce a quality product, but also be very conscious pricing and things. So maybe talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I can't believe I said it was a great process. I can say it now, but asked me a few months ago, and there might have been a few tears shed. But no, I mean, all along we've been trying to design to the quality that our community expects, to the needs that our community told us. And the pricing just was a little out of our reach. So we went back to the drawing board a couple of times and redesigned or refined certain areas, but then also looked at the renovations within the building. We wanted to maximize our money and build as much new square footage as possible, because that's about the only time you can do it, is this one shot. So where could we save money? And that was in some of the renovation. And every time we did a slight refinement or even a major redo, it just got better and better. The project just improved. So that, I mean, all that to say, it was months and lots of designs and lots of hard conversations. A couple of hard decisions were made. But with us having such a good bid experience, we're able to pick up some of the alternates we didn't think we could afford. So I'm really pleased that that's turned out the way it has. And I think it's, like I said, due to the hard work and all the efforts leading into where we're at now. So that's good. These just a few renderings that I think we might flip through and just show you some of the pretty spaces we're planning. And we are going to kind of refresh our entry coming into the existing library to make it seem a little bit more seamless with our addition. This is a view also of the Walmart community room. And Mayor, this is one area where you and I talked about last week that was a good value engineered space, where the windows were actually a little bit taller. And we went back and lowered that and just kind of made things a little more simpler. When we do that value engineering, it's about materiality, but it's also about design and can we save money certain areas.
If you'll go back, if we can go back to that first slide, so you can't really see it, but I'm kind of excited. So if you see the book return right there, so we're doing, you're actually going to be able to see what happens when you put a book in. So that's the book sorter behind the magic there. And so I think that's going to be fun for the public to actually see when they return a book, what happens to the book. So it'll be full view, look, clear glass there that you can kind of see the back end of what happens when you put that book inside the book return. So I think that's going to be a fun entryway. I've noticed that in particular in some different coffee shops and different things I've been in, where they show how the coffee is actually made. And so I think taking that concept into the library is going to kind of be fun. Yeah,
I think so too. It's good. And the more items we circulate, the bigger sorter we have to have. So, but yeah, it's good. I think that'll be a fun thing for our community as well. Thanks for pointing that out. As I mentioned earlier, youth services is a big focus area. So we will have a new children's department and teen area, a new story time, a new craft area. And the story time and craft areas will actually be able to spill out onto a back lawn. So really thinking about how the building will be used, but also those connections to some of the outdoor spaces. And this is a view of the makerspace and digital lab. Again, lots of activities and tactile learning will happen in these areas. We'll have a couple of high-powered computers so people can do the Adobe design work. That is kind of an expensive product to purchase, but if we can work that out, a lot of students in local schools are learning that, and it goes hand in hand with some of the LinkedIn learning coursework that's offered.
Yeah, and that makerspace, so you can see the windows on the back side of that. So again, I think it's going to be exciting for people just to be passing by and be able to look in and see what's going on at the library. And one of the things you mentioned earlier was just the public input that went into this makerspace and making sure that it's flexible, because we do have a public that wants to learn a lot of different things. And so I think you guys have taken a lot of that input and really put it into a good design that can be multi-use at the library.
That's good. This also, I wanted to just point out, if we have a moment, to talk about the book club lounge. I think, Mayor, this might be a good group to kind of share some very special new information that's coming out this week. But our book club lounge, this is actually located where our current children's library is. It doesn't look like it. This is one of the renovated spaces that we went back to the drawing board and made a little more efficient. But we do have this open collaboration area where people can come and meet and discuss. We will host our book clubs there. But it's just a lovely space. And our library foundation has come to the conclusion, the board voted to name this book club lounge in honor of a very special person in our community. Miss Mary Baggett will be the honorarium of our book club lounge naming. The foundation had raised some funding from Booked for the Evening with Stuart Walton, about $18,000 that they put toward this space and this expansion project. And they're going to ask the community to help invest and make this book club lounge all that it can be in honor of Miss Mary Baggett. And I know you know Miss Mary well. For those of you on the call, I hope you know and love her as well. We just, she's kind of like a Bentonville treasure. So we're excited about that. That information is going out this week to some folks, and we'd like for people to share that as well.
Absolutely. So I appreciate you bringing that up. So if you don't know Miss Mary, you should get to know her. She also has a lot of history with the city of Bentonville, and is a great person just to sit down and speak with. But she has definitely contributed to the library's success, and she's a big proponent of the library. So we want to say thank you to her, and I think it's a great, it's very well deserved and a great recognition to name that space after her.
Yes, she was on our Library Foundation inaugural board and really helped with this facility as well. And I do have this little bit of an anecdotal that I always say I want to grow up and be just like Miss Mary. And maybe one of these days I'll make a little bit of that. But it's kind of a running joke that she'll come in and ask how her boyfriend is, because she calls my husband her boyfriend. And my husband has said, you know, if anything ever happened to me and him, that he's going after Miss Mary. I'm like, good luck with that, man. But she's a great person. We're excited about that extra bit of special news.
Well, along those lines, I think we want to talk a little bit about the positive support that you've received from community partnerships. Again, I mentioned sort of, this is a project that I think we're all going to be proud of at the end of. It's going to be something that the public's going to really enjoy and appreciate. But we've also been very, we wanted the support of the community. We've also wanted the support of those private individuals who just have a passion for the library, because we wanted the community to know that this is something that the community supports. And so speaking of that, there are still a few opportunities to help support the library. We're on I think the foundation's on the very tail end of their fundraising. And we did want to make sure that everybody was aware of those opportunities that are still out there. And I know sometimes there's just individuals out there that aren't aware of things that are being built in the city or how they can be involved, and they just have a specific passion for reading and libraries. And so we want to make that information available. And I'll turn it over to you to kind of give more information and what naming opportunities are still available, or ways that you can still contribute to the expansion of the library.
Sure. So I'm glad you mentioned that, because the Library Foundation has worked hard, gotten really good support from private donors, organizations, some corporations as well have stepped up, but there's still always that opportunity to invest and contribute to this project. We do have what we call a public-private partnership with the city. So it's, between the city and the library, it's the foundation, but it is also the community. As you mentioned earlier, we had $4.5 million from the bond, and primarily the Library Foundation has been raising money ever since then. And they've raised over $8.75 million to date. They still have some other things in the works, especially related to the announcement I just shared about Miss Mary Baggett. Donor engagement continues, and we still have some naming opportunities. And, not every donor is going to be able to name a space, but we do have a few spaces still available. If any people on the call, if you know someone who wants to leave a family legacy or have your corporation or your organization honored with a naming space. So you can kind of see, this is that list of naming areas. We have another 8-seat collaboration room left. We have several individual study rooms left to name, as well as a couple of office spaces. Lots of study rooms, it looks like, still available for naming, and those are a little bit more on an affordable range for some folks. So, we just keep plugging away. I love it when we have a meeting with a donor and we're able to close a gift and name another space after a community family. So those are the things that we really appreciate, and it's been great as well. You never know how things are going to go, but it's been really good to see the community step up and support this library project.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we're very appreciative of our donors. And I think we were talking to our teen youth council, and we were able to tell them. So the teen rooms went by like, it sounds like that was one of the first ones to go by. So it was just interesting for them to hear that and how the community wants to support different age groups too. So
definitely, like I told them, there's not one space left to name in the teen area because all of the spaces have been named already.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Well, we've gotten through the questions that I have, but I want to go back to, if we can, talking a little bit more about the resources. And I'm not sure if Debbie on the other end can help us maybe pull up the website and kind of start to walk people through that, because we touched on them a little bit, but until you really see the website and you see the all of the different opportunities, I think it's a little more challenging. So I'm going to see if we might be able to pull that up on the backside. If you want to give the website, Hattie, while we're maybe trying to do
BentonvilleLibrary.org is our website, and there's three main areas whenever I'm doing digital resource review, and that is downloadables. So that's where people can access ebooks, they can access streaming music, magazines, kind of a little bit more of a recreational read in most cases, but of course you can definitely find some educational resources. All Access Video has streaming videos, and they have documentaries that, like, even Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech is on there. So downloadables is really great, and almost every one of these resources has a mobile app component as well. We call our Overdrive app Libby. So Libby's really a free, quick, easy download, and people can put in their library card, their PIN number, and just start reading or listening to books. That's through a consortium of about 12 other libraries in our region, and it's really a great resource. We started many years ago. We do contribute to kind of a collection sharing option, but then Bentonville also has what we call an Advantage account. So we put some of our funding directly into books for Bentonville users.
And one thing I was going to mention, I don't think we mentioned earlier, is that we do have a partnership with the schools with a BPL tech card. So a lot of the students will have access through that tech card as well. So if you don't have a Bentonville Library card, although we would highly encourage you to come in and get a Bentonville Library card, if you have a student in the schools, they may have access to that card too. So maybe talk a little bit about that.
You bet. Debbie, if you could scroll back to the top where we've got that global header. We were in downloadables. Now we're going to go to student portal, just right up there. Yep. Thank you so much. This is our tech card portal page. We can go to e-learning in a second, but this is an area where we targeted things by grade level. And if you just click on grades 9 through 12, you can see some of the things we curated and wanted to make sure students have access to. Tried to make it a little bit more bullet point and succinct. Literary works, we have what we call issues and controversies. So students have to do a paper on a topic, pros and cons, things like that. That's through Facts on File. It's a really good resource. Learning Express Library, I love that resource. It is the test prep, but it also has career aptitude things. So if people have an interest and they want to know what they want, what maybe their hobbies might incline for them to be when they grow up, would be something kind of cool. And then we've got 3 different language learning resources. Mango, Rosetta Stone is, I believe, was mentioned, and then Little Pim is language learning for tiny kids. So those are great. Teen Health and Wellness is pretty cool. Just lots and lots of things that people can access.
Tutor.com. So I saw that that's on the end there. So that's another one I think that probably parents might not be aware of what they can access here.
Yeah, so they can actually, students actually have access to free tutoring after school hours. And also, well, it says from noon to 10, Sunday through Saturday. Well, that's a long time. And they also can do, like, students can submit their papers and get them proofread and things like that. So I thought that was kind of cool, especially helping with citations and things like that. But
that's one thing I was going to have you mention. I know when we were talking to our teens and just talking about the importance of citing resources and different things. And there's some temptations out there with the internet and different things. And I think these resources that you have here will help them be able to make sure those citations happen. So maybe talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think that's in some of the Bloom's literary resources, and even some of the Gale resources and issues and controversies. So if people are searching for something, it will cite where that source came from, and it will even put it in like APA style or MLA citation style. And just once you're in these resources, you know you're finding good information. It's not just somebody who's on the internet posting their opinion. These are fact-checked resources. So that's one reason I really like to promote those with the students. They're a little more savvy than we might give them credit for, but if they can plug in here, there's just no doubt that what they're finding is good information.
And then the financial literacy. I think you maybe mentioned the traveling exhibit that you guys brought in last year to the library, but that's also a big programming piece that the library offers.
Yeah, so even in the financial literacy, someone can click on here and learn. There's like little tools and calculators they can learn how to set themselves up to finance a new car, or to finance college, or to finance whatever that it may be. So I think that's kind of cool, especially, that financial literacy piece is really important. Especially when kids just maybe have a credit card and don't think so much about the funding that takes to fund the credit card. But I think that's pretty cool, especially if they're searching for how to fund college or a new car or something like that.
And then maybe if we can go up to the top and get into the LinkedIn Learning. I know that's one that I've heard from a lot of businesses and business owners that they had no idea that they could access LinkedIn Learning through their public library card. So
and we can do that several different ways. Debbie, if you want to click on the Bentonville Library logo in the top left, then go to e-learning. And I just wanted to point this out because you can kind of see the difference between if you click on there, you can see the many, many, many different resources we have from A to Z. And if we're looking at LinkedIn Learning, obviously be under L, but you could just see all the things that our library subscribes to and the state library subscribes to for our patrons. We also have legal forms with Law Depot, which are pretty easy to use. And I don't know if you click on that, if we'd be able to see the list of courses that are offered in here. If we have to log in, I might be in trouble because I can never remember my login and my password. I mean it, really. I thought there was a way to link in and see all the different resources, but I'm not seeing that.
Well, and I know you're not running it. Debbie's trying to run it. So, but if you click into that, or if you come by the library, I know, especially we're encouraging everyone to come by and get a library card. You can certainly help them kind of see what all those offerings are in the LinkedIn Learning. But that's definitely one I think I've heard from definitely our businesses. They had no idea that they had access to that. So again, you can kind of scroll down through there, but that Law Depot, I've also heard a lot from the community about using it. I don't know if there's any others in particular that you've heard a lot about, but those are two that I know. It's like when we make a presentation on this, they're either using it and they're like, people have no idea what they have access to, or they don't have any idea that they can utilize this through the public library, and they want to know immediately how to get a library card and come in and be able to be part of that. So
Yeah, these are all, and a lot of these are really good for research as well. Even a more academic kind of research, I think too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Debbie, if you'll take us back up to the top on our portal. So we talked about e-learning, download a student portal. You want to show them the events and the calendar. So that's the other thing that I think the public may not always know. You pretty much have some sort of public event or activity going on daily. So maybe show them the calendar, and maybe I'm not sure if you can also show them, you can kind of put together your own little calendar of library events. And so maybe we can kind of walk them through that a little bit.
Yeah, so this is actually a good view of the calendar. Sometimes I bring up the calendar view and there's so much on there, I can't really read what's happening. So this is pretty cool because it looks like it's by the week, but you can sort and filter by age group. If you only want to know what's happening for adults, you can select that and it will narrow it down. If you only want preschools, you can narrow that down. And also there's just ways that you can view things differently. And then you can also create your own little brochure if you wanted to like put it on your fridge for your family and remember when you're going to the public library or when you plan to go to the public library for whatever event. So it's pretty cool. Anytime we have a registration required event, they have to go to this event calendar, click on the link and then register. And we also ask people if they register for an event and determine they cannot make it to please cancel their reservation, because almost every workshop we have has a wait list right now. So we want to make sure that people who register do attend, and those who want to come can if there's space available. So that's one thing we've been trying to really promote with folks, to say, don't waste your seat. If you can't make it, please cancel. And the system automatically bumps the next person up. So there's information about that library card design contest. I hope that we have some good submissions. And
I'm looking through the different sort of topics, but I saw that pollinator partnership. But one thing we didn't mention is the learning gardens at the library. So maybe you could end with that information. We're getting close to the time, and then we'll take any questions. But maybe talk a little bit about the learning gardens at the library.
So the learning gardens are currently located in our backyard, which will actually be under construction this spring. So we plan to relocate some of the learning gardens over by the book drop, so they'll get some really good visibility. Our master gardeners of Benton County helped us design and build them. We brought in team volunteers, and they spent 2 or 3 days constructing these learning garden beds, these raised beds with plantings, and the teens just adopted them. It's one of those situations where, you know, if we wanted to go out there and help, they're like, we got this. You know, they're watering the produce, they're harvesting the produce, and then they're bringing it in and sharing it with the community. So we'd have like a basket of beans out for patrons to take a bag of those and that kind of thing. What's kind of cool too is we had these huge sunflowers, and they would harvest the seeds and give out the seeds, and then reuse the seeds for planting. So our learning gardens have been fun. This is kind of a slide that talks about those partnerships with impact. Definitely have lots of opportunities for people to give their time and talent to the public library. That's one good example. The tech cards are a good example, where we've had corporate groups assemble packets for us. The summer feeding, I mean, all the things that happen here are due to people wanting to be involved. Things like our dog therapy story time. I mean, just people who want to give their time and talent. So we're always looking for good folks, and we definitely use them. We couldn't do what we do without them. So, you know, anytime someone asks me, or you always ask, how do people get involved? I say, give your time, give your talent, consider being a member of the Friends, or consider being a donor to the foundation. Just any way they want to be involved. It can be as little or as much as possible.
And that's your contact information. So if we have anybody out there that wants to volunteer with the library, wants to support the library in any way, please reach out to Hattie. And you talked about the learning gardens. You also mentioned sort of the reading with some of the service dogs that come in. I think that's also a fun thing that we do that maybe not the general public is aware of. So I don't know. Every time I visit the library or in I hear a presentation, I learn something new that the library has going on. So I hope that that's a indication for the public to really just go to the library, find out and find. I promise there is something at the library that you will enjoy and can be engaged with. So with that, I have about 4 minutes left, and we always try to get out on time. I think we've had really good conversation today. If there is anybody online that wants to ask a question, we'd be happy to answer that question for you today. And if not, we're going to consider that we gave a lot of information and answered all the questions during the time that we've shared today.